Bnei Akiva. Apparently, I thought this was a South African only session, but now we found out we've got someone from Australia. Where are you from, Australia? Australia, where? Sydney. So we got Sydney, we got Cape Town, we got Joburg. Where else? Melbourne as well. Coming. Anywhere else in the world? So those 4 cities, yeah? Yeah. What's the connection between Australia and South Africa? Is it that you're on the southern hemisphere? Yes. That's the connection. So you can like phone your parents at the same time. What's the reason? There we go. Yeah, because isn't it winter now? I've never been to Southern Hemisphere my whole life. I've never been. I travelled a lot, but not. Yeah, it's winter. That's cool. So we're going to do a course. Today's course is about intimacy. The whole day is a seminar on intimacy. I even see you had a class as I walked in on body image. You know, I hope that was good. We're not going to talk about body image, even though it's connected somewhat, because how you feel about yourself affects how you're going to feel about the other person, you know? For me personally, this has been a really positive topic, very helpful. I taught here this whole past World Bnei Akiva crew, beginning in August until February, March. The war was pretty intense, but in fact we ended up having more classes because the guys, as I was saying before, weren't allowed to go out and do stuff, so they had to put up with me a bit more than they would have. But it was actually, we really grew as a crew. You can even ask the guys if you know any of them. We had a group called Intimacy Boys, like on WhatsApp. I never made it, the guys made it themselves. And everyone was in the group. And that, for me, it showed a lot. The boys were into it. One of the things that really made it work, and we're going to try and squeeze in like 20 sessions into, you know, a very short amount of time, whatever we got, like an hour today. You got to like contribute as well. Like I need to hear back feedback. First, I'm going to say a little bit about what the course is about, like a sort of very short, summarized version that will be helpful for everyone right now with their life, 2024 experiences, what we're dealing with. And then I want you guys to ask questions. And we had some of the greatest questions asked. If anyone wants to check it out, you just go to Relationship Flow or Intimacy Boys or Unity Flow and look up Relationship or Bnei Akiva, type it in Google and it will come up, Eddie Goldsmith under my name or under the World Bnei Akiva. And we went into depth and some really wild questions were asked, and I don't mind. You can ask anything. Honestly, anything. So, yeah, have fun. Yeah, I want you to ask. Okay, so here we are. So I grew up in London, just to give background. I'm the UK representative that's not represented here. But what I did do was step up in the world because I married a South African. Yeah? Which you all will agree, even our Australian friends, the South Africans are a different quality than the UK bunch. But I'm biased. But before I got to marry my wife, I grew up in Northwest London, very traditional, but not so religious, not really connected to Israel, at all, very, very English. Like part of the establishment, you know, my family are big in the entertainment industry, and that was my upbringing. I would say if I characterize myself, remember this is the 90s, a little bit different to the 2000s, I was a bit more of a player than I was like a kind of safe relationship kind of choice, you know, like I was not religious, no. So I used to go to balls. I don't know if you have balls back in your days, but back in my days, balls were like where you basically hook up with as many girls as you could in one night, yeah? That was the kind of like teenage experience I grew up with. And I went on tour, which was like a thing kids do at 16. That was my first trip ever in my life to Israel. I knew nothing about Israel almost, because I went to Reform, and for whatever reason they didn't teach me much about, you know, my tradition, my heritage. I really didn't know much. So I came here very naive, but one thing I felt like I was professional at, out of the music, was women. So my image on the t-shirt, you know, you have like your summary of what your main theme was of the tour for a month with all your crew. My one was a guitar and a world and a tongue. So figure that one out. So I went around and did a world tour of all the women, which I literally did. And yeah, that was my tour experience in Israel. But something happened inside of me and it woke up a spark. When I came back to England around 16, I felt a bit empty after I left Israel. It didn't feel right. Something was off. And I didn't know what it was. Maybe it was because I was with so many cool people and I was missing that social experience that you guys are going to have after this ends. I don't know when it ends, but the power of being with a crew of people non-stop is very, don't take for granted. And that's going to be one of the points we're going to mention about relationship and intimacy. Having focused time with people, having ability to connect and have quality time with people. Like these kind of times in your life where you get to not have pressures of work and bills, and you get to actually be focused. Or please go when you find your soulmate, which we'll talk about. The idea of having someone to dedicate to is going to be a big theme in this little discussion we're going to have. I think it's the key to intimacy nowadays, and it's the hardest thing almost to do because of the way the world is. So back then, we didn't have all your guys' distractions. Yeah, think about it. What did I have? TV, a Walkman. It wasn't like the phones were in my face, and I didn't have a status. Like I had a name. People knew who I was. I used to run nightclubs back then. That's what I was doing. 16, 17. I ran a club called Pimps and Whores. Literally, that was the name of the club in London. And my wife, to be, she was my VIP guest. Not that I knew that I was going to marry her, but we were very close. We met first time in a gym, running around. I know I don't have the body image that we all aspire for, but back then I did. I used to model in those days. So I can show you pictures if no one believes. So you can Google it, no problem. Goldsmith, you can Google it now. I mean, rather you're not on your phones, but the point is that I was running around the gym and my best friend introduced me and we became very, very close. We didn't actually hook up. The whole time we were best friends, which was unusual for me. I think what happened, I'll just tell you a few nice fun stories from 16-year-old age. How old are you guys? 18. 18. So you can, it's not too far off, a few years back from you guys. So I was friends with some pretty upper class people in London who had high connections. So I ended up at Prince William's birthday party. I'm not joking. Prince William. I came in with my boy, and my boy, him and my boy, we're still best friends. We could go anywhere and get whatever we want. That's how we felt. Like we had swag, we had money, we had looks. That's how we felt. He was blonde, I was brown, and we like get what we wanted. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so now I went to Prince William's birthday and I saw this beautiful blonde girl, and we connected. And you know, she was a fancy, like royal kind of woman, like Emily. You know? And she used to travel all the way from the centre of London, which is like far, to where I live, which is in the suburbs, where the Jew crew are, like the northwest London crew. And she'd come all the way, week after week, to come see me. Even when I went to university years later, she was still coming to wanting to see me and send me letters and stuff. And you know, that was for me a big wake-up call, because what was the point that happened? Once we were intimate, yeah, we'll call it that. I don't know if it was intimacy, but once we connected that way, what really affected me was that she wasn't Jewish. And I felt like something inside of me, like I felt when I came back from Israel, that first trip, that emptiness. I felt that emptiness I'd never felt before. Like so intense after I was with her. And yeah, we are going to have questions. I was not religious, no. Someone else asked this before, but you weren't here yet. So I wasn't religious, no. I was very like traditional, but not really, you know. So as one of my friends once said, I was about to kosher as a pepperoni pizza. You know, that was it. You know, that was about pepperoni. You know, that was where I was at. My family went up there. So my family went in the music business, you know, entertainment industry. So I grew up going to like the best concerts. Everyone wanted to be my friend, yeah, obviously, because I could get you VIP to any show. Just list anything in the 90s, I would probably went to it and I could get people into it. And I met a lot of famous rock and roll musicians, famous people of that time. Yes. You had a long time. Of course. Of course I did. Anyway, wow, yeah, he's talented. So the point was that from the nightclub experience and from the Emily story, one of the things that also hit me after I did a night of nightclub, and it was packed. I had 1,000 people at my clubs, made a lot of money. All my best friends came and all my crew and then larger crews, and I had a whole system how I promoted it. But I felt so empty afterwards. I even had 3 rooms of different DJs. It was a fat night, but I felt like an emptiness I've never felt since then. Because I think I didn't do that after I grew up a bit more. 17, 18, I started realizing that something didn't feel right. I started getting a bit more hippie style. And maybe that's why by the time I met my wife, like in a real way, we did actually meet one time before this, shul hopping. Do you guys do that in where you live? On like Yom Tov, you go around to different shuls, see all the different social scenes. So we used to do that. I didn't spend much time in shul, but so I definitely check out the scenes outside the shul. And my wife, at 14, was introduced to me, but I didn't, apparently she always fancied me, but I didn't talk to her till 16, and then we became very close. And in the meanwhile, I had like 1 or 2 other posh girlfriends from that, and other kinds of not posh girlfriends. If you listen to my classes with the intimacy boys, which I mentioned at the beginning, I went into all the stories. Like, I don't know if you heard of Magaluf, one of these Spanish islands. I was at one of those places, and it's like a crazy woman down there. And I got stories, a lot of stories. And I did this a lot when I was very young. I was very sexually and busy with girls from a very young age. That was part of my James Bond's focus. Anyway, so now I've got this feeling of emptiness. I've got to do something about it. So what do most people do when they feel empty? They fill it up with drugs. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's usually how you deal with the empty feeling. But eventually that runs out. You don't feel, and even at a young age, I already felt like I really wasn't resolving it. And I had these memories of Israel resolving it. Experiences in Israel were going to do it for me. So I came back to Israel at 18 while I was at university, and I had some very spiritual experiences. And the good news was, when I came back to come here for long term, actually I came one more time after that. My soulmate also was deciding at that time to also come to Israel. And she ended up, and funny enough, we were always near each other, on tour. She was on the other group, but we didn't know that we were soulmates then. What happened was, one time I think I was really high, but I felt very grounded at that moment. I was sitting under a tree playing some music in London, in a park. I used to play a lot of guitar and stuff, and she was sitting there with me writing a poem or something, or drawing pictures, very arty. And I looked at her and I said, I think we've had a connection from another time. I feel really connected to you. And once again, we were never physical then, before, during, only until we got married. And I just felt like a really deep connection I never felt with a person before. And she was like, I'm feeling it also. And it was really intense. And we talked about it a lot. And what happened was, thank God, even though I was promoting clubs and this and that, I lost my mobile phone, which had all the numbers and all the crazy stuff that I was busy organizing. I lost it, and I ended up with a new phone, and I only really put a few very close people. And women-wise, she was the only woman I put on that phone. So sort of eliminated a whole load of noise. I remember it was not like social media back then. You could just go on the gram again, and you've got everyone. Once you lost the phone, you lost the memory, you lost. It's not like how it is now. You're always connected somewhere or another. You have the cloud and everything. So, once again, I come to Israel, and once again, you don't have a phone. You don't have all these things you're bringing with you from back home. So you just experience, this is what we're going to talk about. You experience the moment, you experience the now. You're able to open yourself to Israel, to the crew you're with. I ended up going to Sfat, to Yerushalayim. She ended up soon afterwards coming to seminary. I went to yeshiva. And we just kept being, because I was very close with her twin brother. The way I met her twin brother was through, heavy, smoking, purple haze, crazy stuff. But then through her, we ended up seeing each other at the cocktail for our family, and I ended up going for Yom Tov, and there was just this build-up until I was 21, and I was like, this is it, she's the one. And that, in short, was a very long story, condensed into a very short session that we've got together today, where I basically felt a deep connection to this woman and knew that she was the one. But I needed to go through like a cleansing period where I eliminated a lot of the other noise, a lot of the other options, and just really home in on this one lady. And when I really felt like I was focused enough, I was able to look at her and see, yeah, she's the one. Like I had that feeling when I was under the tree years before. But at 21, I had this feeling that she's the one. And now it's a matter of, just practicals of dating and getting eventually engaged, married, and the whole thing. We got engaged 2 b'Av, we were married Hanukkah. And I didn't know what all those significant times meant before then, but by that point I'd learned a little bit about my people and heritage. So it was meaningful those times. 2 b'Av was a time where you're meant to find your soulmate. And Hanukkah was, we married the second night, and every night it just got, as we light more candles, so did our Shabbat. So we got more light. And our marriage has been like that. We've had 6 kids, thank God. We live in Israel. We're living right near here in a flat now, which is a big thing, so we lived many years in Israel. And one of the things I needed to do was transfer a lot of my entertainment and music lifestyle skills from my past to Israel. So I've been involved all these years with booking artists, speakers. I'm in that space. I don't know if you've heard of it, like Mr. Black or Rochman or all these guys. I've been working with him for since before he even became Jewish, 2011. We became friends. We worked the first show we did in 2013, and by that point he was Jewish. And 2000, I have a long list. You look up Unity bookings, it's a long, long list of artists, speakers, probably Alex Clare. Just spoke to him yesterday. He's one of my, known for long since he first came back to Judaism pretty much and went viral. I've been working with a lot of guys. I don't know. You probably know a lot of them. Just look it up. Like Ari Lesser, you ever seen that guy? He does all these hip hop things. Yeah, Rabbi Leo D is on my list. I book all kinds of people. Yishai Fleischer was just on Piers Morgan the other day, so that's good for my business. The more they get, exposure, the better it is. But the point is, so I'm coming from that world, the media world, and it's creatives, artists, musicians. It's a very busy lifestyle. If you get into management side of it, which right now I'm not, I'm more on the booking side, but when I was management, you're not home, yeah? So then your intimacy, your marriage gets, starts to get challenged. That world is a hard world to keep the focus. But what we're going to learn about where you guys are, you're not yet in the business world, is you're in this transition point of school, in between year off, to uni, to then. So there's going to be like I said, that was the main time where I found my soulmate. Now, not everyone's going to be so lucky in that late teens, early 20s, to already have some sort of awareness that this woman is the one. Yeah, that's quite rare. Let's be honest. Yeah, but one of the things what I needed to do to get to that sensitivity was to eliminate a lot of the noise, and that's part of what we're talking about with intimacy is the focus and the quality of the focus. I'll give you an example, and then I'll open up the story for questions. Let's go a bit like hardcore and crude. Do you mind? You're not going to go tell your mummy or something, yeah? Yeah? Okay. Intimacy, yeah, if you think about it, yeah, it's this intense moment of pleasure, yeah, if any of you guys be involved, yeah? Now, really what it is you're bonding with another soul, you're bonding with another person in the most intimate way. That means intimacy. You're going into another human being, to know them, as it says in the Torah, to know them in the most deep way. That's why it has the power to bring down children into, it has a creative power, it has so much energy there. The whole music world, the whole advertising world works off it, we're all exposed to the energy of it. It's a power. Now, that power, if channeled and focused and is quality, is the most awesome power. Because one, it brings you marriage. Means that, what does marriage really mean? Loyalty. It means you're with someone you can trust and be loyal with. It means you know them deeply. Yeah? And it brings you to the potential of finding someone you can share your life with. Now, I don't know what it's like for your age group. I have kids similar age to you. I have an 18-year-old. I have a 90-year-old who's in Gaza right now. He actually just came out today. He's been in this whole war. So he's a year older, I suppose, than you guys. and he was part of this recent rescue. Everything that you've seen in the news, pretty much, he's been one of the key players, his unit, and they've done some amazing things, and he's been given awards, and he'll probably get more as the war continues, and please God be safe. He's coming home, very proud of Marcus and actually I'm very proud of my son, what he's done. So he's come to a point being in the war, his mindset, whereas, when he was a bit of a younger teenager, even though I'm seemingly more religious, but like, my point in life is not about religion. My point in life is about helping people get closer to God, get closer to themselves, their soul level, the soulmate. That's why we're talking about intimacy here. So with my son, I'm not like crazy, he has to like be this crazy religious fanatic, but he does have to be connected to who he is. And that's one of the things going in this war has really laser focused himself to who he is. One of the reasons why, and this connects to the intimacy clause, is he hasn't been with any women, so it means he's more focused on getting to know himself, because you have to first know yourself before you can know another person. Second is, he hasn't had a phone most of all. He's had no phone, no TikTok, no nothing, because they take it away from you, yeah? He only gets it back, like today, Sunday, I see him back online. He actually did his first Instagram post on his current account, because a lot of teenagers go through accounts, I don't know if you're familiar with that. They start an account, especially Israel, start an account, close it, maybe another one, make another, I don't know why. With their ups and downs, they decide this, that, who the crew they're with, they don't want to be friends with those kind of people right now. Whatever the reason is, so the current account he's had for the last year or so, he hasn't posted anything. So I know he's now out of Gaza because he's now posting again, and obviously in front of my wife, and I see him, I send him a heart, and welcome back, and we're going to go get him later today. But the point is, he has decided that he doesn't want to mess around. He wants to find his soulmate, his partner, like he says. He looks at my wife and he says, I want a marriage like you guys. I want to be able to find a soulmate. I want to find someone I can be dedicated with. And he's a young guy. Like you could think, well, maybe just say it. No, but he's felt what it's like to be on the edge of death. Like he's been in moments where bullets are flying around him. He's been in moments when, Oketz, the dog, goes and booby trap blows up and the wall falls down and he's got to run in his negatives with a machine gun and shoot. They just this week had a terrorist come out the tunnels. They caught them through the drones and they had a shootout with them. Like he's felt that moment of close to death. So he's thinking like, Lord, God forbid, what I want from my life. So that's one of the things the guys in the Intimacy Boys this year, with WhatsApp group made. We really felt the seriousness of being in Israel, and being part of a war situation. Especially when there was the missiles flying here, and everyone was feeling it very first hand. Everyone suddenly woke up a different level of like what they want from their life. And it's not just about like the TikTok party lifestyle. I have to get there myself in my own way, and you're going to do it your own way, no one can force it on you. But you get to a point where you just start to like make choices where relationship actually matters. And it's not just about that intensity. Now to get to the crude thing, and then we'll leave it open for you guys. When you're with a lady, and it's just about you and what pleasure you can get, so then you're just fulfilling your own needs. So that's another thing my son's worked really hard, not to just fulfill his own needs. It's about actually connecting to another person and connecting to their needs. How can real intimacy is pleasuring the lady, is actually making her feel good. That's real intimacy. Making myself feel good is not real intimacy. You can do that yourself, you don't need her. Yeah, even though you're not really allowed, but you can do it yourself. You don't need her, because there's plenty of ways, with technology coming, like what they're talking about, like futuristic stuff coming, it's like you could be married to a robot, you don't even need a woman, yeah? Your phone, whatever, yeah, you don't, levels of whatever that will come. So now it's like, this person, I can actually go on a journey with and connect and feel their soul, feel that there's a human being. The pleasure is like 10x, 100x, a million x fold, because it's you're connecting on a soul level to another human being, and you're experiencing something that's so beyond, instead of just that feeling of release and pleasure. I mean, I don't know if you guys have had these intimate relationships, but after you're with a woman you don't really care about, it feels exciting before, but as soon as you've done the act, you don't even like it. And if you've had that feeling. You got what you wanted, I just want to get out of here now. Yeah? I don't know if any of you guys had that feeling. I I mean, that just shows like what it is. If it's not with someone you really want to grow and develop with, you just want to get out of this space. Like, you did what you needed, you could have done it yourself, you didn't need her. Whereas when you're with your soulmate, it's a journey. And it continues, it grows, it gets better. Like, why is marriage so challenged nowadays? Because people aren't going on this journey. They're thinking elsewhere, there's someone else who can fulfill my needs more. Instead of, I'm going on this journey with this other human being, how can we grow together? How can I pleasure her? How can I build her? How can she build me? And that's what she's thinking about. And then you're constantly getting a higher level of intimacy. You're more open, you're more trusting, you're more soulful. You know that there's a loyalty factor, and you know that you're not just, like, it's not just one-time thing. So that's like the contrast with that world, and that's what made a big impact on me. One of the things I did do is I held back a lot before I found my soulmate. And I think that opened me up to her. Like, meaning I made choices to not just play around in this area. Already by 17, 18, like, I had girls coming to university, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And 17, 18, 19, I was already like, at a point where I just felt I needed to I said to one girl, she was like really serious. I said, if you want to connect, we're going to have to get married or something. We're going to have to go this full way, because I'm not doing it just whatever. And she was like, whoa. She like never met a guy who talked that way. Guys just want to get what they want. And But I was like, hold back. I need this to be the real thing or not to. So I already came to that, and there was no rabbi brainwashing me. It wasn't like someone was like my parents needed me to be that way. This was from my own personal journey with myself and my development. So now I open up you guys. The focus is on 2 points: intimacy, how to get it quality, and how to have a focused relationship. And I want you guys to ask as much as you want.
Do you feel like the period you had before your 18, 19, when you decided like, no, I really want to connect with someone, the period you had before, and this is the 16, 17.
Party time, yeah.
That type of time. Do you feel like it was necessary for you to have that?
Yeah.
Do you regret any part of that at all leading up towards it?
Wow. This is brilliant. I mean, he's really paid attention first, so respect, man. Where are you from?
No.
Okay, cool. You're a good listener, so I appreciate that. Everything you ask and everything means you really listen, and the questions are really spot on. So for me, the way I see my life, being, as they call it in the Jewish world, about tshuva, whatever they call it, the way I see it is that everything I did before was a part of my process of becoming who I am now. So I don't regret anything. I don't regret anything. From being by the holiest moments of my life to the most crazy, like Magaluf nightclub, crazy situation, like whatever those situations were. Everything was a building. And I have to say, I felt closer to God sometimes in the more crazy places than I did sometimes in the more seemingly spiritual, holy places. And that's, for me, a very deep point. That you can find God, you can find yourself, you can find your intimacy in a very not holy place. And it's like, where did it, like example, in Shavuot, 2 days, we'll ask for questions. Where did the Torah get given? It didn't get given in Jerusalem on the temple. Where did it get given? In the desert, surrounded by snakes and craziness and nations who were doing crazy stuff. Where did we develop as a nation? In Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was like whatever movie you can imagine, like where the most crazy scenes are going on. I don't want to maybe list any of them. In the back of my head, what can I think of? I mean, I'm not going to. The modern day stuff is crap. Like Netflix, excuse my language, or like Sex Education. That whole series was rubbish, like proper trash. Like by the end of it, it was like fantasy. What I'm saying is that you have to understand that I can do tshuva from that movie that I saw. I can understand the power that's in intimacy. Like it calls the name of it, basic instinct. It's such a basic instinct of humanity. But if you elevate it, if you bring it to a good place with your soulmate, and that's the only place you can do it, it brings you to the deepest and most fulfilling places. It gives you a fulfillment, it gives you family, it gives you values, it gives you dedication. It's like another different way of living than just whatever kind of life. So what are you going to say?
Did you have faith or believe in God or have a relationship with God during your party?
Yeah, so that's what I said. Nightclub, I suddenly, a few times. One nightclub I was in London, it's like they called it the au pair nightclub, meaning it's like all the women who come from abroad to work for these rich people, like my family, come work for them, and then, you know, they come, the au pairs, and you can find one of these, like, yeah, no, that night probably I drank quite a bit, I reckon. Had a few times. No, there's definitely, I would say all the drugs and alcohol I did were tools to help. By the way, whoever leaves, there will be a recording of it, you can listen. Yeah, you mentioned. Have a good one. Thanks for being here. So, that's El Mashama or something? What's his name? Oh, some guy. Oh, that was cool. Cool name. Anyway, so what was I saying? To get back to the flow. So, yeah, so I would, once again, I said no regrets. So I needed that time of drugs and alcohol at that time in my life to get me out of the, you know, I don't know if you know the radio song, OK Computer, but like, you know, 9 to 5 in the gym, like robot style lifestyle. I needed something to break me out and make me think a little bit out of the box, to open me up to the soul a little bit. But would I say everyone needs to do that to get spiritual? No. But for me, at that time of life, I was so like boxed into a London, Northwest sort of lifestyle where you do this, and it's all like written out for you. But I needed some way to sort of escape it, and the alcohol and drugs was like a stepping stone. I wouldn't say it was necessary for everyone, but for me at that time, it gave me a sensitivity to think, be more creative, and think a little bit out of the box, so that once I came to Israel, I actually quit from all of it. Because I felt such a creative energy here, I didn't need that anymore.
Do you think having a relationship with God helps your relationship?
Yeah. My wife grew up South African, and if you know South Africans, because some of you guys are, they're very traditional. I don't know what it's like now, but she went to Herzliya, for example, and she got a very like Jewish education. She was way ahead of me in that sense. She knew how to read Hebrew properly, and she was way ahead of like in traditions and understanding values. Like they were more like not too far off from their European ancestors who had a lot of traditions, whereas my family, more generations in London, had already given up a lot of any connection to Judaism. And, you know, they got involved with reform already, whereas in South Africa there wasn't really reform. And, you know, it was much more traditional. So she actually really bloomed, like she really flowered when she got involved with Jewish stuff at school. Like there was a famous Rebbe back then who came to visit, and being in Jaffa, she went to a Jewish school. I went to a public school. So it's very different. So she had all those Jewish experiences I had. And so her teachers always felt like she was going to become more, she always had that potential. And she really pushed me when we became one to really go down the more very religious. We were like very religious at one point in our journey, like in the external sense. And now we feel like we've really done tshuva on the tshuva. Like you have to now balance out, like our friend here asked before, the past with the future, with the present, get everything more organic and together. And that's where I feel like we're at now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You said that you kind of came to the decision, like by yourself,
Yeah.
that you wanted to become more religious. And looking back to your parents, like they really in a way?
My family were more against it. Huh? You sure? Whatever you need, man. You're good. Please come back.
Yeah.
The idea of my family, they were against it. Like, they were brought up with like the English sort of syndicalism. They're like the rabbinate are corrupt, and you know they just want to be happy. And that was actually a big change point, because I was one and a couple of women, which was a miracle back then. I just didn't. It shows some pictures from them. You'll see why it was. Girls were interested, but I just didn't. No, I just didn't. But I did smoke a lot. But then someone challenged me and said, you know, you can get high without the smoking, without the women, and without the need to like, connect to everybody. Like, it became very, big part of my life. And my wife went to a seminary which was similar to that, called Neve. So it's like they sort of go together. So it was like we ended up in the right place, the right time, with the right people, and it helped me get to that point where then I could go on this spiritual journey with her. And we were somewhat at the same space. That's also very important. You're sharing the journey somewhat with the person you're with. There should be some common ground in terms of your spiritual journey as well. We've bonded in that way. Yeah.
Based on what your past saying, like I'm sure you had a lot of female decided to go on the path to someone you love.
Yeah.
Find your soulmates in that sense.
They were still around, yeah, some of those girls, yeah.
What are your thoughts on maintaining a very close relationship with the female while you're married? What are serious relationships?
So what happened was, to me, like, for me it was, a lot of those relationships was, why didn't I move in on her? Something was stopping me. I just felt like I needed to have more of a connection with her than just the physical. I'd like done that already. And all the girls I'd been physical with, you know, it didn't feel like it was that deep. It was more that they were pretty or whatever. And when I came here, so there was situations where they did reconnect, but like one or two older friends, like role models of mine, at that time were like, let it stay away. You know, I'll bring them, I'll open them up to this beautiful path that I'm on, and they were like, you're not going to do that. You're going to end up falling, and it's not going to work. So for me, it wasn't that, because I was a very sexually active guy, probably wasn't wise for me to do. Like, I went to work in a rehab in Israel called the Torna, and I worked a lot with the guys, and once in a while they made me work with the women, and I just felt like this isn't my thing. Like, generally my focus has always been, I've worked with many programs over the years, guys. Girls not my, you know, I have my boundaries there. That's me personally, you have to know yourself, yeah? Like, not that I'm going to jump on anyone and do something crazy, but just, you have to know yourself. And generally my success has been like, with young men, not so much with young women. And that includes all my old girlfriends. I mean, everyone was drunk. I was in London, and even one of my famous family members was there, like Goldsmith. And this ginger girl that I was never really into, but she was into me, came up to me and said, come on, let's dance. Yeah, she wanted to, like, you know. I said, look, I've got a wife, I think then I had 5 kids, waiting for me back home in Jerusalem. Like, it's not happening, you know, it's just not happening. No one would have cared there, because it was a secular crowd, no one would have cared. But I was not having my boundaries, and I didn't, you know, I didn't dance, and I feel good about it. Then afterwards I went back to my friend's place, who's living in Marylebone, and it's a fancy part of London, and I said to him, bro, like, we played a game of chess. I said, if I win, you get rid of the non-Jewish girlfriend. You know? And he's a clever guy, good at chess. But God was on my side. Years later, I went to meet with him in another place. He flew me in, and I got a tefillin on him, and we had a whole fight about the non-Jewish girlfriend. And Baruch Hashem now, all these years later, about 40 or so, I got involved in his wedding, and this beautiful Jewish wedding, and a beautiful Jewish wife, and he just had a Jewish baby. Like, I invested in my relationships with my friends, and thank God, you know, they're Jewish-wise, they're alive. You know, all of them. Thank God. Yeah.
You've had quite a few relationships. How do you know when you found a person that you want to spend the rest of your life with? What that kind of shift in how do you...
Were you there when I mentioned the park situation? And I felt that with the guitar, and she was writing poetry. Yeah, so I was talking about it. Like, it was this moment of... It's a good question, but I did sort of cover it, but maybe I need to clarify. It was a moment of deep clarity, like, where I felt like we'd had a previous life experience. Like, there was something about this person that was much deeper than any other person that I've ever encountered. Like a soul moment. You had to be a little bit open for it to experience that, but it does happen. I don't know if you've ever had that. When you meet someone, and in your trip to Israel, you met someone on this trip who you just really bonded. You could just talk, you could just connect. There's so much common ground. So when you have this with a lady, and she's not irritating, she's actually deep, you actually want to talk more. You know, because I don't mean to be rude, but sometimes women, that's another thing. I always tell my kids, I've got a bunch of teenager boys, they're all good looking, in my opinion. Yeah? So, like, the girls, you know, they hit them up, you know, on IG or whatever. One of them, thank God, got off IG because of it. Yeah, and one of my boys, he said he's already found the girl that he's interested in. He's 16, he just flew himself to Poland and Ukraine. He works, he has his own job, and he's a manager of a store, and he flew himself off. He's there now, he's in Ukraine, he's going to be there for Shavuot. And he's already said he's found the girl that he's like he's just waiting. Like, he's not, I'm not ready, she's not ready. You know, his brothers are a bit big, he's waiting till like he's at a place where it's ready to see. And until then, he's not interested. And in any other way. And the other boy himself, like the one who's a bit maybe more likely to do that kind of thing. We've hit up the girl. So I said to him, just want to let you know how irritating a woman can be if she's not the one. I don't know if you've had that experience. Don't mean to be rude about women. But you get, and they need, and they this and that. Now, if it's your wife, if it's your soulmate, there's all these pluses as well. But now you're probably not getting much. Yeah. By the way, secular people, it's good to know this, good percentage. Most secular people don't get much. Just you should know from their marriage. That's one reason why most of them are breaking up these days. I mean, apparently the percentages are like once every 6 months. Imagine, you're married to this woman. I'm not joking, go look it up. Most secular people now hardly having any sex with their wife. At a certain point, it just stops happening. So then what happens? Divorce, or they cheat, or this and that. The marriage is not bonding. They're not bonding. They're not going on this journey I mentioned before. Whereas in a kosher Jewish marriage, you're minimum 2 times a week, probably, based on the way the schedule is with mikvah and everything else, and and then 4 times a month at least. And then at the beginning, and when there's energy, it could be more. And then as you get to a point where you don't need to only connect intimately to connect. It could be just a touch. It could be just a look in the eyes. It could be a very deep conversation, and it does all the stuff that intimacy supposedly does. You start to understand that intimacy isn't just the act of sex, it's actual and emotional bonding, which is apparently 90% of the whole connection, 10% is physical, and now if you add the soul level, the spiritual aspects, which the therapists aren't going to talk about so much, but the idea you have a spiritual connection, that's also a huge part, when you feel like it's a bonding experience. I have a podcast, Relationship Flow. You have to create a whole experience for it to really grow and to become something that you want to do and she wants to do and you're in the mood and you're going to make time for it and it's special. Unlike that world, after a certain point, people are just finding other ways to be stimulated. Yeah? So that's really sad out there. I feel sorry for those husbands and men. For those women. We're not really bonded anymore. So I knew that you're getting the best out of the relationship between man and wife through doing it the right way. And understanding the depth of it. There's Kabbalah, there's mysticism, there's deep aspects to it's holy, it's the highest thing. It's the highest way of unification, it's the highest way of unifying with another human being. And we know that reality is it's the most challenged part of human reality. Any more questions before we end off? Got a few more minutes. Come on, you guys are really making it easy.
About
No, ask. I want to hear the most crazy.
this thing about having sex twice a week when you're married.
So that's the Torah, Friday night, mikveh, if you want to get into the religion aspect, there's a whole religious side to it, yeah? You go to the purification process, and so the night of the purification process, the mikveh night, and then there's the Shabbat night, and then, the idea that you shouldn't overdo it, so then, and just reality is a woman, has a lot of hormones, a lot of interest, the beginning part, and then the second week she's already starting to feel hormonal and not be so in the mood anyway. Remember, a woman, that's another thing, you have to study women a little bit, their process. They're not just like the way the movies make. They're always up for it. They always look great and always up for it. They wake up in the morning, perfect, yeah? And they're in the mood, always. That's how the movies make. So there's no such reality. That's either a prostitute or a porn star. There's no such reality. And even she's going to have a limit, because there's only so much. So the point is, there's no such reality. A woman is a process. You have to get to know their cycle, their flow, their emotional state. It's a process. That's why I say, when it's in marriage, you can start to work it out. But when it's just hitting up a woman, you're not going to know what's going on if you're not in a real relationship. You're just going to be confused half the time. Why is she in such a bad mood? Why is she so not responsive? I don't get it. We were so physical, now she just wants distance. I don't get it. All this confusion that goes on. Yeah, what do you want to ask? You want to ask something? Someone want to ask? Questions? I want more questions.
So what do you think keeps that spark alive in religious families? Looking at, in contrast to a secular marriage,
Not all religious families are getting it out, right?
No, sorry, let me say the statistics, I'm sure, religious marriage would probably be getting more action than
It's not just action, bonding. Yeah.
Bonding more on that spiritual level and physical level than the secular family. What do you think really
Well, if you're not bringing Netflix to the bedroom, that's already a head start. Yeah, because you know. Yeah, you've got times of disconnecting to reconnect. That's the famous concept of Shabbat. Even anyone out there in high tech really needs to do this. Anyone in the big business world needs to just disconnect to reconnect. Needs to just turn off. I was with a secular guy from Tel Aviv this last week, a big high up business guy, and he said to me, "I'm not religious, but Shabbat I disconnect to reconnect." I mean, he first said disconnect. So I said, "And why did you disconnect?" To reconnect. I added that point. And he said, "You're right. Reconnect to my wife, to my kids, my grandchildren." Like, he's an older guy, and he knows the importance of it, even not being religious and not being, you know, interested in the laws of Shabbat. The concept, he gets it, and that's so too with a woman. Yeah, you didn't ask any questions, man.
I'm sorry.
Ask one question, then you can go. Huh? How am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. I'd love to come back and do this again, but you guys it's just a one-time thing. Oh yeah, you can ask. Ask Shmulafai. You know Shmulafai? He's the guy who organizes this. You want to thank him? Thanks for coming. That's a good question.
Another question.
Yeah.
Could you say the stories that happened in Spain?
Of course. We'll end off with the Spain story. I did do one when you're free, you got to do. So there was another story. This story I don't tell everyone. I went into a club, and I was on the rebound from this relationship, and she had already was starting to hook up with some other dude, yeah? And while we were still connected, and by that point I'd already met my wife-to-be, so I was getting things were shifting. And the guy she'd always wanted, she'd hooked up with, in fact, she'd hooked up with him already in front of me at another crazy nightclub in London, in a dress that I just bought her, very expensive dress, and I just met all her family. And she, in front of me, I mean, I was very busy with my boys on the slot machines, so while I turned my back, she was off with this dude, yeah? And I even drove her home. That's how crazy I was for her. So the next story I was at in Spain, and all his boys were there. Yeah, he wasn't there, but you know, be the boys up, same thing. Yeah. So I was gonna, and I had like the drink and the feeling like I could do it. They were older than me, so it was a bit, you know, they were tougher guys, but I was gonna do it. But I thought, you know what? She was there with his boys, yeah? And my ex. So I saw this girl there, and I call them club women. Club girls. I don't know what the name is in the street name because it's been so long. But they're the women of the clubs. Like the women literally, the clubs bring these kind of women, promoters, finance them, promote them to promote the club. And they're like all done up to the nines, as they say, and you know they've got everything, all the extensions, everything. And that one of those women, I was like, started hitting on her, drink this, that. Anyway, I was trying to do it to make my ex jealous, yeah? So it didn't work so much, but there was a bit of ruckus between us and the boys. We ended up leaving it. My own boys were good boys. They were like, let's just get out of here and have a good time. Let's enjoy this holiday, forget her. It's not a waste of time, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, later on, I'm walking around the town, lost all my boys. I don't even know where it was. I've just come to this place. I'm drunk in my head. I don't know where I am. So I walk into a cafe, and the girl from the club girl was sitting there. And she liked me. She liked my vibe back then. She come sit down. So I sat down, we started talking, and then, it was going on another hour or so, and then she could come back to my place. I was like, oh, 2 in the morning, let's go. So I come back to her place, I get there, she starts taking off all the stuff. Because remember, she dressed like extensions, and I'm getting a little bit freaky. She's not as tall as she looks suddenly, No. Yeah. Thank God, it was before those days, when generally those things would happen. Thank God. Thank you. I never had that experience, thank God. So that would be more like 2024 experience, really nowadays it's got from that kind of shock. Anyway, no, you need protection because you don't know. So I don't know if you've seen some of the women out there. They look like the hottest women with, and below is completely not. So anyway, she took it all off, and then she said, come, sleep. So come. So I come, and we start talking. She says to me, by the end of all the talking, she's like, because obviously she had a lot of trauma from her past relationships in Wales or wherever she was from, and all the different things she was going through. And all I cared about was this previous relationship. And I got to a point where I I just felt like, once again, as I said in university, if it wasn't the real thing, I can't go through this pain I was going through for this ex. The fire, like it says, we'll add in a bit of Torah here. Ish for Isha. Ish for Isha is a man and woman in Hebrew. It has in it the same letters as Aish, as fire. Yeah, both Ish and Isha, both have fire. What's the two letters that's the difference between the woman and man? A Yud and a Hey. Yud and Hey together make what? God, Shekhinah. Yikar, yeah, how do you want to say it? Yeah? So Yud and K to come together make God's name. We want to unite God's name in this world. We want to be light to the world. So when Ish and Isha come together, if they've got God's blessing, if they're together with on a soul level, there's a unification going on. So then it has, the fire gets the energy, that fire elevates the relationship. What I experienced from that ex was how much that fire burned. I felt the burn. I don't know if you've ever broken up with a girl who you really like. It's a burn. It's fire. Fire gone wrong. Divorces, they're like fire. Fire's in the house. And they hate each other. Passion, most divorces. Yeah? They end up trying to destroy each other. It's like this burning fire, consuming fire. Instead of what? The fire's contained, controlled, channeled, and it's passionate, it's great, it lights up the home, it brings warmth, it brings souls, it brings more souls to the world, it brings light to the world. You can now, as a unit, do so much more. That's Ish for Isha with a unit, okay? That's with God's blessing. So that was the contrast with the Spanish experience, the Spanish island experience, because she was not getting that from her lifestyle, obviously, and I wasn't getting it from my ex. So all we did was just bond. How we both, and she asked me, cuddle me. I didn't do anything else than cuddle her. So when I went back to my boys after that night, they were all like, oh, you know, like 3, 4 in the morning, 4, 5 in the morning late. I didn't stay there. I didn't have to sleep in there. I just left after an hour, coming on. And they were like, oh, yeah, where are you? And you were just, you know, we saw who you were with, you know, And I was like, no, nothing happened, man, nothing. I'm still working out this ex story. Like, I'm just not where I'm at. And that's gradually what helped me open up to more spiritual relationship, understanding that fire. I just didn't want to have that negative experience of seemingly at the beginning all this passion, and now it turns into fire gone wrong. And that for me was a big wake-up call. So I'm happy to come back and do a bit more, because we really only touched, I did like 20 sessions with the previous group. That's up to you guys. You let Shmona fly. I know how much more time you're here. But I really appreciated the attendance. I appreciated the listening, the questions. I hope the answers were helpful. And I know that by discussing this kind of stuff, because it's very real, we didn't even get into the whole sex thing and phone stuff that goes on. And, you know, we didn't even get into that. Like, the way the phones have such an impact in our relationships, the lack of focus, the status, the fakeness. You know, we didn't even get into that. Like, the whole phone experience, like, with women nowadays. Because it is a whole nother level you guys have to deal with it. I didn't have to deal with that then. And, you know, that, just understand, anything you're tested in, if your test is that much harder to really come out with a good relationship, you actually, if you can get it right, or even if you don't get it right completely, but at least trying, that's a big accomplishment also. And that's how God looks at us in this generation. He's really looking for us, really trying hard to just get that relationship right. He sees how our intentions and our will, our inner will is to do the right thing by our own way of dealing with this process, with how we, every time we hold back from not watching porn, or not texting that girl that we shouldn't, or not hooking up when we shouldn't, every time we hold back a little bit, and then when we please God find the right person and really dedicate ourselves, like to really dedicate, and not to end up as another statistic of divorce and single parent families and all that stuff that's going on. And it takes a lot of work, and it's worth it. This is something worth investing in, and that's why it's important to have this kind of conversations, because it will lead you guys to have intimacy that will be focused and quality. That's it. Okay, much love. Come again, as I say.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your time here, guys. Yeah, please.
Can we hear music?
I have music, yeah. It's on Spotify if anyone wants.